Welcome to the Empathy Stories channel, where every narrative reveals the profound ties that connect us all. Today, we invite you on an emotional journey through the haunting legacy of Flight US 201, a story of discovery, compassion, and nature's quiet guardians guiding lost souls home. I still remember that icy January morning in Fairbanks when the mystery of Flight US 201, long whispered about like an old ghost story, resurfaced with a force that seemed to warm even the coldest heart. It was a chilly day in 2016 when a routine satellite scan unexpectedly revealed a metallic anomaly deep within the northern ice. For decades, Flight US 201 had been nothing more than a tragic legend, a passenger plane lost on Christmas Eve 1976, vanishing without a trace in the vast Arctic wilderness. Its fate, and the souls aboard, had been shrouded in sorrow and unanswered questions. Now, as the anomaly came to light, it was as if the long-forgotten past was reaching out to us, imploring us to listen. David Carter, a seasoned researcher with more than 30 years studying the unforgiving Alaskan landscapes, was the first to receive the satellite images. He sat at his weathered desk in a modest office overlooking the snowy sprawl of Fairbanks. The images spread out before him were both eerie and mesmerizing, a silent promise that history was about to be rewritten. David's hands trembled ever so slightly as he compared the outlines captured by the satellite with old records. The unmistakable shape of an aircraft's tail fin, perfectly frozen at a 40 degrees angle, confirmed his worst and best hopes all at once. "Lisa," David called, his voice soft yet charged with urgency as he beckoned his trusted colleague, Dr. Lisa Brown, into his office. "Take a look at this. I believe we've finally found Flight US 201. Dr. Brown, known not only for her brilliant mind but also for her deep empathy and unwavering compassion, joined him. She studied the images with a quiet intensity that spoke of a lifetime devoted to uncovering truth in the harshest of environments. "It's as if the past is calling to us, David," she murmured, her eyes reflecting both professional excitement and a personal reverence for the lives lost. "This discovery, it's more than a scientific find. It's a message, a reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring power of hope." The duo knew that the gravity of the situation required the combined efforts of a diverse team. Within days, plans for an unprecedented recovery mission began to take shape. The National Research Council stepped forward with rapid funding approvals, and the U.S. Air Force offered logistical support, providing the much-needed backbone for the expedition. It was a calling that resonated with everyone involved, a chance to give voice to those who had long been silenced by the icy grasp of time. As preparations moved at a breakneck pace, a sense of unity and determination enveloped the team. In the conference room of the research facility, where maps, satellite images, and weather reports hung on every wall, the air was filled with a mixture of scientific rigor and heartfelt sentiment. Dr. Susan Mitchell, an expert in wildlife behavior and the human-animal bond, shared her insights on the unique conditions of the northern icefields. "The ice here isn't just a frozen expanse," she explained during one meeting, her tone both analytical and poetic. "It's a living canvas. Each ripple, each crack, tells a story of survival, loss, and love." It wasn't long before the final piece of the puzzle came together. Seasoned ice pilot Sam Johnson, whose decades of experience in search and rescue missions had seen him brave countless storms, was tasked with leading the convoy. As he adjusted his weathered cap and prepared his vehicle for the long journey into the heart of the frozen wilderness, he paused to speak with David. "You know, David," he said, his voice roughened by years of shouting over Arctic winds, "every time I fly into that endless white, I can't help but think of the souls we're trying to bring home. It's not just a mission, it's a chance to honor the memory of every life lost." David nodded, the weight of responsibility mirrored in his eyes. "I understand, Sam. It's more than duty. It's love, a deep, enduring love for the people who entrusted us with their stories, their memories. We owe them this." With the team assembled and their hearts united in a common purpose, the expedition set off under the vast, wintry skies, as the convoy of heavy-duty vehicles crunched through the snow, leaving tracks that would soon be lost to the relentless wind. The spirit of Flight US 201 seemed to travel with them, a silent witness to every step and every heartbeat. On that fateful journey, the Arctic, often seen as an endless void of isolation, began to reveal itself as a realm of hidden beauty and profound mystery. The bitter cold was tempered by moments of unexpected warmth, a shared cup of coffee between colleagues, a knowing glance exchanged during a pause to admire the fleeting dance of the aurora borealis overhead. Each small act of kindness, every supportive word, echoed the deep-seated compassion that bound the team together. In the midst of planning and technical discussions, it was the human connections that shone the brightest. "Remember," Lisa said one evening as the team gathered around a makeshift table in their temporary camp. "This isn't just about recovering a wreckage. It's about healing old wounds. About bridging the gap between the past and the present. We are not just scientists, we are custodians of history. And our empathy is what will guide us through these frozen lands." The night was long and filled with anticipation. Yet beneath the layers of ice and snow, there lay a warmth born of shared purpose and tender remembrance. The echo of lost voices and unspoken goodbyes mingled with the crisp mountain air, creating an atmosphere where every flake of snow seemed to whisper the secrets of those long gone. Thus began our journey, a quest to reclaim the fragments of a tragedy that had haunted the collective memory of a nation for decades. In that moment, as the convoy pushed deeper into the unknown, we all felt that perhaps, in the vast and silent wilderness, we might finally unearth not only the physical remains of Flight US 201 but also the enduring spirit of those who had once soared above the clouds. And in doing so, we would honor a legacy of empathy, love, and unyielding hope that transcended the bounds of time and space. The convoy arrived at the site on a bleak February day, when the Arctic's merciless winds seemed to echo the sorrow of decades past. As the heavy-duty vehicles came to a cautious stop, David Carter and Dr. Lisa Brown led the team onto the ice. There, partially concealed beneath layers of time-frozen snow, was the eerie outline of Flight US 201's fuselage. It was as though the plane had been suspended in time, a haunting relic of a tragedy that had long haunted the nation. Stepping closer, David's eyes glistened with a mixture of reverence and profound sadness. "This," he whispered, as if speaking to the lost souls, "is not just metal and ice. It's a frozen memorial, a testament to lives interrupted." His voice trembled with emotion. And for a moment, the biting cold was forgotten, replaced by a shared warmth among the gathered team. The initial survey of the wreck was meticulous and measured. Dr. Lisa Brown, whose compassion had always driven her to see beyond the mere facts, lingered near the broken doorway of the plane. "I can almost feel their presence here," she murmured, tracing her gloved fingers over the smooth, preserved surfaces. "Every item, every shard of evidence speaks of their hopes, their fears, and their undying will to survive." Inside, the cabin was an almost surreal time capsule. Magazines lay open on seatback trays, their pages forever frozen mid-turn. A flight attendant's cart, caught in a moment of calm service, still held cups where coffee had long since turned into small, crystalline blocks. It was as if time had halted on that fateful Christmas Eve of 1976, preserving not just physical objects but the very essence of human life and struggle. At the heart of the wreck, the team discovered personal effects that struck a deep emotional chord. A child's doll, with intricately braided yarn hair, lay in a corner, its faded dress a poignant reminder of innocence lost. Nearby, a wallet containing faded photographs of smiling families told stories of joy and shared moments. Now suspended in an eternal, silent vigil, each object was a piece of a puzzle, a narrative waiting to be uncovered. It was during this somber exploration that the team made the most significant and heart-wrenching discovery: a weathered diary hidden in a storage compartment near the cockpit. David carefully opened its fragile pages, and as he began to read, the voices of those lost began to speak once more. The diary belonged to a flight attendant who had witnessed the harrowing events following the crash. Her words, penned with trembling sincerity, detailed not only the relentless struggle against the brutal cold but also the profound bonds of human compassion that had emerged amidst the chaos. Gathered in a quiet corner of the recovered wreckage, the team huddled around as David read aloud. His voice softened with each word, carrying the weight of decades and the tenderness of remembered moments. December 25, 1976. Dawn. If you can call this light dawn. Only 22 of us remain. The impact was devastating. But the real killer was the cold. So many died in their sleep that first night. His pause was laden with grief and empathy, resonating deeply with every listener. Dr. Susan Mitchell, whose expertise in wildlife and human emotions had always provided a unique perspective, interjected quietly, "Imagine the desperation, the isolation, and yet, amidst that despair, they found a way to support each other, to show love, to share hope." Her eyes glistened with unshed tears as she recalled the subtle, almost miraculous kindness that can blossom even in the most desolate of circumstances. As the diary's entries continued, they revealed moments of remarkable bravery and mutual care. The flight attendant wrote of Captain Matthews, who had organized the survivors with unwavering determination despite the terror of their situation. "We gathered in the first-class cabin," the entry read, "seeking warmth not just in our bodies, but in our hearts. Even as the storm raged outside, Captain Matthews' steady hand offered us hope." The words painted vivid images of shared meals, whispered reassurances, and gentle gestures, a quiet chorus of human connection echoing against the vast emptiness. In one particularly moving passage dated December 30th, the diary described an enigmatic occurrence. "There are tracks in the snow around the plane," it read, "and they seem to be keeping other predators away." The entry left the survivors both bewildered and comforted, a suggestion that, somehow, nature had stepped in as a silent guardian during their darkest hours. The mystery of those animal tracks, and the unspoken bond they hinted at, would later form the bridge between the human tragedy and the strange natural world that had silently witnessed it all. For a long while after the reading, the team sat in reflective silence. The diary was more than a historical record. It was a window into a world where empathy triumphed over despair, where even the most desperate souls clung to each other in a testament of resilience. David, his voice now barely above a whisper, said, "They faced unimaginable fear, yet amidst it all, there was love, a fierce, burning love that refused to let the cold win." Dr. Lisa Brown, with a tear rolling down her cheek, added softly, "It reminds us that even in the face of overwhelming loss, the human spirit finds a way to reach out, to hold on, to care, to hope." Her words resonated deeply within the cramped space of the icy wreckage, binding the present to a past that was as vivid as it was heart-wrenching. The discovery of the diary transformed the mission from a mere recovery operation into an intimate pilgrimage, a journey not only to reclaim lost artifacts but to honor the profound connections that had sustained those on board Flight US 201. Each page turned was a step into the lives of those who had perished, a step into the embrace of shared humanity. In that frozen relic of a bygone era, the team found more than evidence of survival. They discovered a legacy of love and empathy that transcended time and space. The preserved cabin, with its silent echoes of laughter, fear, and hope, stood as a powerful reminder of the resilience of the human spirit, a spirit that, even in the grip of nature's harshest elements, continues to beat with a steady rhythm of compassion. Thus, as the Arctic winds howled outside, inside that battered yet noble vessel, the voices of the past came alive, urging those present to remember that even in tragedy, there is beauty, a beauty born from the bonds of empathy and the unyielding desire to care for one another. And so, with hearts heavy yet hopeful, the team vowed to preserve not just the wreckage, but the memory of Flight US 201. Ensuring that its legacy of human connection would never be lost to the icy oblivion of time. In the weeks that followed the solemn exploration of Flight US 201's preserved wreckage, an unexpected chapter of the mission began to unfold, a chapter written not in human words but in the silent language of nature. As the team labored meticulously to document every detail of the crash site, their eyes slowly started to notice an unusual pattern in the surrounding ice fields. At first, it was a faint series of tracks in the snow, almost as if nature itself had drawn invisible maps. But as days turned into weeks, these trails became unmistakable signs of an unseen presence. One crisp morning, as the sun struggled to pierce through the lingering winter gloom, Dr. Lisa Brown was out on a routine survey when she spotted them, a family of bobcats. Their sleek forms contrasting sharply against the stark whiteness of the landscape. There was a large female with eyes that glimmered like polished amber and two nearly grown cubs playfully shadowing her every step. Lisa paused, her breath forming a soft mist in the cold air. As she observed their deliberate movements, "They're guiding us," she whispered into her walkie-talkie, her voice trembling with both awe and a sudden, profound realization. Back at the makeshift camp, David Carter, who had been poring over maps and notes, looked up from his work. "Guiding us?" he echoed, his tone laced with curiosity and a hint of hope. Lisa explained, "Notice the way they navigate around the precarious ice formations. They seem to be choosing paths that keep them, and perhaps us, safe. It's almost as if they're marking safe passages, showing us the way to avoid the dangers hidden beneath the snow." The team gathered to study the tracks, and even the seasoned ice pilot Sam Johnson couldn't hide his amazement. "I've flown in these parts all my life," he admitted, "and I've never seen anything like this. It's as if these bobcats have a secret, a legacy passed down through generations." Dr. Susan Mitchell, whose heart resonated deeply with both nature and the survivors' stories in the recovered diary, added softly, "The diary mentioned tracks that kept predators at bay, tracks that seemed to be a promise of protection. Could it be that these creatures are the very guardians that comforted those lost souls all those years ago?" As the days passed, the bobcats continued to make their presence felt. They appeared at the edge of the work areas, silently observing the human activity with a composed dignity. The mother bobcat, in particular, seemed to command an almost regal authority. Each time a dangerous shift in the ice threatened the crew, her appearance was a quiet reminder of nature's watchful care. Her cubs, full of playful curiosity yet cautious, trailed behind, learning the art of survival from their vigilant mother. During one afternoon, after a particularly strenuous day of excavations, David found himself alone on a ridge overlooking the crash site. The weight of the mission, the endless cold, the grief for lives lost, the burden of unearthing memories, pressed heavily on his heart. As he sat down on a mound of undisturbed snow, he noticed the mother bobcat approaching the edge of the ridge. For a moment, the wild eyes of the creature met his, and in that silent exchange, David felt an overwhelming surge of empathy. In that quiet instance, he realized that the bobcats, in their graceful endurance, embodied the very essence of compassion that had been the guiding light for the survivors in the diary. They had not only navigated the treacherous terrain but had, in their own enigmatic way, offered solace and direction to those stranded in despair. David's mind filled with memories of the diary's heartfelt accounts, the whispered comforts shared between strangers, the mutual care that blossomed in the face of insurmountable odds. And here, in the form of a wild, ancient guardian, that same compassion was alive. Later that evening, back at camp, David gathered the team around a flickering fire. The group, weary yet filled with a quiet determination, listened intently as he recounted his encounter. "Today," he began, his voice steady but soft, "I looked into the eyes of that magnificent creature, and I saw more than just a wild animal. I saw the embodiment of our shared hope, of a compassion that defies even the harshest isolation. It reminded me that no matter how bleak our surroundings, there is always a guiding light, a reminder that we are not alone." Dr. Lisa Brown nodded, her eyes moist in the firelight. "It's as if these bobcats are a living legacy of what those souls once experienced, a reminder that even in our darkest hours, nature reaches out to us, offering comfort in the most unexpected forms." Sam Johnson, usually the stoic pilot, added with rare vulnerability, "I've always prided myself on knowing these lands, on reading the ice like a map. But today, I realized that there are lessons here that go beyond survival. They speak of love, of empathy. These creatures remind us that caring for one another is the truest form of navigation." Over the next several days, the team began to integrate the bobcats into their operations, not as mere wild animals but as symbolic guardians of the site. Their behavior was meticulously documented, their patterns compared with the diary entries, and slowly, an intricate mosaic of human and animal memory was revealed. It became clear that these bobcats were not random visitors. They were heirs to a legacy, a lineage that had once intertwined with the desperate yet tender humanity of Flight US 201 survivors. For David, the lessons were deeply personal. The experience reshaped his understanding of his work and his purpose. In the midst of scientific inquiry and rigorous excavation, he had discovered something far more profound, the realization that empathy, kindness, and the silent support of nature were as vital as any data or artifact. The bobcats had taught him that compassion is a language that transcends time and species, a reminder that in the interconnected tapestry of life, every creature, every act of kindness, matters. One crisp evening, as the team prepared to wrap up another day of work, David found himself once again reflecting on the journey. The bobcats, now a comforting presence at the edges of the camp, moved gracefully against the backdrop of a twilight sky. In their every step, David saw the echoes of lost voices and the unspoken promise of care. And he understood, with a clarity that warmed him more than the fire ever could, that the true legacy of Flight US 201 was not solely in the tragic loss of life but in the enduring testament to the power of compassion. In that moment, amidst the vast expanse of ice and memory, David vowed to honor this lesson. He would carry forward the spirit of empathy not just in his research but in every facet of his life. The guardians of the wild had imparted a message, that even in the coldest, most isolated places, love and compassion can ignite a light that guides us home. And so, with renewed resolve and a heart profoundly touched by nature's gentle wisdom, David Carter embraced the legacy of Flight US 201, a legacy that would forever remind him that, in the shared language of kindness, we are all, indeed, connected. Thank you for joining us on this heartfelt exploration of Flight US 201's enduring legacy. We hope this story of resilience, compassion, and the mysterious guidance of nature has touched your heart and inspired you to cherish every connection in life. Your support motivates us to continue sharing these transformative narratives. Please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts as we journey together, keeping the spirit of empathy alive in every corner of our world.